I'm next to walk on stage so they can announce a big house. You're the guy with the microphone that's backstage managing the... This is what I see. He's right here. I'm with him. All right, I'll tell him right now. Kevin, hold up 1 second. They just said they're not going to go through or pick it up. Somebody should be back here to talk to you shortly.
It's honestly wild to realize it's been over a decade since Kevin Hart flipped himself into one of the biggest names in comedy history. Back then, his rise felt raw and real, almost impossible to fake. He wasn't just cracking jokes, he was laying his life on the table. His comedy was loud, fast, awkward, and painfully honest. He talked about his family, his height, his failures, his fears, all of it like he was letting the crowd read straight out of his diary. People didn't just laugh at him, they laughed with him. And that connection changed everything. That bond didn't just sell tickets, it built a movement. Kevin went from grinding in packed comedy clubs to selling out an NFL stadium, something most comedians can only dream about. That kind of jump doesn't happen by accident. Then the movies came fast and heavy. Box office hits stacked up one after another, and suddenly Kevin Hart wasn't just a comedian anymore, he was everywhere. Movies, tours, endorsements, nonstop visibility. He built a full-blown empire with production companies, fitness brands, tequila deals, supplements, fast food partnerships, the whole setup. He didn't just diversify, he multiplied. Kevin Hart wasn't just successful at that point, he was unavoidable. But somewhere along the way, the underdog everyone rooted for started to fade. The movies began feeling recycled. The comedy got louder, but somehow flatter. The jokes still hit, but the magic felt thinner. Then came the scandals, cheating rumors, public apologies, extortion headlines, and the Oscars drama that refused to die. At a certain point, people weren't laughing freely anymore. They were watching closely. Even fellow comedians started whispering uncomfortable questions. Was Kevin still the scrappy hustler he claimed to be? Or was he now a polished product backed by a very powerful machine?
My mother was strict, but she was strict because she saw mistakes that she had made with my brother and letting my brother do certain things and my brother responding to that freedom negatively. So I was the one that couldn't get out of sight. I was the one that never could do something by myself. I had extracurricular activities. I had a babysitter. I was never not watched.
By 2024, the criticism wasn't even about punchlines anymore. It went deeper than jokes. It became about influence, power, and control, about whether Kevin Hart had turned into someone who decides who gets opportunities and who gets shut out. That's the irony. He's still winning, still expanding, still stacking success on top of success. But what he may have lost along the way is the very thing that made people connect with him in the first place. That version of Kevin didn't come out of nowhere. It was built through pressure, struggle, and survival. Kevin Hart grew up in North Philadelphia, raised by his mother, Nancy Hart. She was the backbone of the household, strict, disciplined, and fiercely protective. Kevin and his older brother Robert were raised in a single-parent home because their father, Henry Witherspoon, struggled with addiction and was frequently in and out of prison. When his father was around, there was no consistency, no stability. Nancy had to fill every role imaginable: provider, disciplinarian, emotional anchor. She did everything she could to shield her kids from the chaos around them, but raising two boys alone in a tough neighborhood wasn't easy. Money stayed tight. They were packed into a small one-bedroom apartment surrounded by crime, drugs, and constant bad influences. There was no steady male role model in the house. Kevin's brother Robert got pulled into the streets. He joined a gang, started dealing, and eventually got caught up in a robbery. When Robert was arrested, the judge gave him a choice: prison or the military. He chose the military. And for Nancy, that moment changed everything. She became even stricter with Kevin. She kept him busy, watched him closely, and made sure he stayed far away from trouble. That structure planted discipline in Kevin early, something that later defined his relentless work ethic. School, though, that wasn't his lane. Over time, it became clear Kevin didn't fit the traditional academic path. He eventually dropped out of college and took a job as a shoe salesman. Even there, his mother's lessons showed up loud and clear. Kevin worked harder than everyone else and quickly became the top salesman in the store. But what really separated him wasn't just hustle, it was energy. Kevin had this loud, contagious personality that filled every room.
First night I won, I said, this is crazy. I can't believe I won. I was performing against like 7 other people. I won. Came back the next week, I won again. Came back the next week, I won again. Came back the next week, I won again. I won 6 times and I quit my job. I said, I'm not doing this no more. I'm a comedian. This is what I want to do for the rest of my life.
He kept coworkers laughing, customers entertained, and the vibes high. One day, a colleague told him he should try stand-up comedy. Kevin took the shot, and the second he touched the mic, something clicked. The laughs, the crowd, the spotlight. It lit a fire instantly. He was hooked. He started entering comedy competitions and actually winning them. Comedy stopped feeling like a fantasy. It started feeling possible. And surprisingly, his mom backed him. Even though she was a devout Christian who, according to Kevin, had never even watched stand-up comedy, she believed in him. She agreed to pay his rent for 1 year on one condition. If comedy didn't work, he had to go back to college. Kevin bet on himself. He started hanging around veteran comedians at Philly clubs, performing under the name Lil Kev. His early material leaned heavy on impressions and borrowed styles. It got laughs, but it didn't feel personal. Audiences could sense it. The jokes landed, but the connection wasn't there yet, and Kevin knew it. So he hit the road. Philly, New York, Boston, city after city, club after club. The grind was brutal. He got booed off stage more than once. At one rough gig in a strip club, someone even threw a chicken wing at him. Instead of quitting, Kevin adapted. Those nights taught him something critical. People don't connect to impressions. They connect to truth. So he switched it up. He started telling stories from his real life, his insecurities, his strict upbringing, his messy relationship with his father. That change didn't make him famous overnight, but it changed how crowds reacted. Slowly, people started remembering his name. And once that happened, things finally started moving.
God threw the wing at me. I was like, why are you even here? That's what I was thinking in my mind. He was like, hey, man, enough.
Yeah.
And he just threw a saucy buffalo wing at me, hit me in the side of the face.
As Kevin leaned into real stories instead of borrowed jokes, something clicked. Crowds didn't just laugh anymore, they remembered him. He was still grinding nonstop, but now his presence stuck. One of the people who noticed was director Judd Apatow. Apatow liked Kevin's energy and cast him in a recurring role on the 2001 sitcom Undeclared. It wasn't a starring role, but it was Kevin's first real network set, and that mattered a lot. That opportunity opened doors and put him on casting radars. From there, small but steady film roles followed. Movies like Paper Soldiers and Scary Movie 3. Nothing massive yet, but the resume was stacking. Around the same time, Kevin's personal life looked stable too. He married his college sweetheart, Torrey Hart, and for a moment, everything felt aligned. Career momentum, marriage, stability. This was supposed to be the beginning. This was supposed to be Kevin's real breakthrough on television. For the first time, he wasn't just cast in a show. He was the star and one of the creators. The concept was loosely inspired by the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, flipping the familiar setup into Kevin's world. A rich kid from Malibu forced to move in with family in Philadelphia. It was familiar, fun, and perfectly tailored to Kevin's energy, humor, and background. Everything about it screamed potential. The network treated it like a sure thing at first. They flew Kevin out to present the show to advertisers, rolling out the red carpet like this was the moment everything would finally change. This was supposed to be the transition from up and coming to officially established. The room was ready, the pitch was lined up, and Kevin was seconds away from stepping on stage when everything collapsed instantly. Right before he was supposed to walk out and introduce the show, Kevin was pulled aside and quietly told the network wasn't picking it up. No warning, no build-up. Just a cold decision handed to him seconds before his big moment. Imagine pouring your heart into something, believing your life is about to shift forever, only to have it ripped away before you even get to speak. It was over before it even began. The network still aired the 6 episodes they had already filmed, but there was no future, no second season, no real support.
Last night gave me the whole test, passed the test. Officer then gave me the breathalyzer. Failed the breathalyzer. I said, look, it's fine. I'm drunk. I get it. Do what you got to do.
Kevin knew the truth the moment the show premiered. It was already dead, and there was nothing he could do to save it. Still, hope wasn't completely gone yet. Kevin had just landed his first leading role in a feature film, Soul Plane, sharing the screen with names like Snoop Dogg, Method Man, Monique, and a rising Sofia Vergara. The movie had buzz, a built-in audience, and real commercial potential, at least on paper. Then, disaster hit again. A leaked copy of the movie spread online months before its official release. By the time Soul Plane finally reached theaters, a large part of its core audience had already watched it for free. The film bombed at the box office and critics piled on, tearing it apart from every angle. 2 major failures back-to-back in Hollywood isn't just bad luck. That's a warning sign. Kevin had followed the rules, played the game, and still got pushed aside. Calls slowed down, auditions dried up, opportunities quietly disappeared. Just when it looked like he might finally break through, the industry moved on without him. That's when something inside Kevin shifted for real. Instead of chasing Hollywood's approval, he decided to bet on himself. He went back to what he knew best: stand-up comedy. No studios, no shortcuts, just stages, microphones, and crowds that couldn't be faked. Kevin worked everywhere he could: tiny clubs, backroom bars, any stage that would give him time. He rebuilt his reputation one set at a time, grinding harder than ever. By 2009, he realized control mattered more than access, so he launched his own company, Heartbeat Productions, taking his future into his own hands. That decision changed everything. Soon after, he released his stand-up special, I'm a Grown Little Man, leaning fully into honesty this time. Childhood struggles, insecurities, marriage stress, fatherhood, all of it laid bare. It felt raw, real, and different from what people expected. Audiences responded immediately. Kevin wasn't just funny again, he felt authentic. A year later, he followed it up with Seriously Funny, which performed well. But the real shift came in 2011 when he dropped Laugh at My Pain.
Story, people. That's exactly what I do. Get in the shower, get dressed, get in my car, start driving to the store. On the way to the store, I hit a speed bump. When I hit the speed bump, I hear a lot of noise in the trunk. Boom! Boom-doom-doom! Boom! That's weird. I ain't put shit in the trunk. The fuck is all that noise in a goddamn trunk? I'm small. I get scared fast. So, I get out the car, I pop the trunk. This is some true shit. I pop the trunk. When I pop the trunk, this bitch was stooped down in the trunk like this, looking at me.
This wasn't just another comedy special. It became a cultural moment. The film pulled in an estimated $7.7 million at the box office, making it one of the highest-grossing stand-up films ever. Kevin was officially back, and this time it was on his terms. He proved he didn't need Hollywood anymore. Hollywood needed him. But while his career exploded publicly, his personal life was quietly unraveling behind the scenes. His marriage to Torrey Hart grew tense, filled with arguments and trust issues, until they finally filed for divorce in 2011. Before the dust even settled, Kevin began dating Eniku Parrish, a relationship that would later bring its own controversies. Professionally, though, Hollywood came calling again, this time on Kevin's terms. He landed a role in Think Like a Man, a romantic comedy that shocked everyone by grossing over $96 million on a $12 million budget. That success proved Kevin Hart wasn't just a stand-up comic anymore. He could sell tickets on the big screen too. But even with career highs and a fresh relationship, Kevin later admitted he was spiraling internally. In his memoir, he confessed that as his career soared, his relationship with alcohol worsened. Money came in fast and disappeared just as fast through partying, stress, and escape. In April 2013, Kevin was arrested for driving under the influence after speeding dangerously and nearly colliding with a gas tanker. The situation could have ended far worse. He was sentenced to probation and ordered to complete an alcohol education program, and in typical celebrity fashion, the moment quickly faded from headlines.
But to sit up there and have a team of motherfuckers helping write your jokes, how incredible, like, how much credit can you get for being incredible if that's not your train of thought? But if that's not your point of view, those aren't your thoughts, those aren't your words articulated and formulated to come out and make a motherfucker hunch over and hold their stomach and wipe their tear ducts because they dying because of what they hearing.
Just 2 months later, Kevin released Let Me Explain, openly joking about the DUI, the divorce, and his kids. The crowd loved it, and the special succeeded, but behind the laughs, something had shifted. More and more of Kevin's comedy began centering on his failed marriage, with bits portraying his ex-wife as jealous and controlling. The laughs were loud, but not everyone found it funny. In comedy circles, whispers started growing about credibility, style, and whether Kevin was being pushed more by branding than pure talent. By the mid-2000s, Kevin Hart wasn't just popular, he was everywhere. Movies, stand-up, commercials, podcasts, billboards, non-stop exposure. On paper, it looked like the dream, but cracks were forming under the surface. One of the first public signs came in 2014 when Mike Epps was asked which comedian he thought was overrated. Without hesitation, he said Kevin Hart. He added that in comedy, marketing can be bigger than talent, and that wasn't just shade, it was a direct challenge. Kevin fired back on social media, saying he was too busy working to notice the criticism, then warned that if Mike kept talking, he'd book shows in the same cities on the same nights. That response split opinions and rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. Mike responded with his own sharp jab, suggesting Hollywood favors people who play the game and stay in line. That line stuck, and he wasn't alone. Other comedians began echoing similar thoughts, questioning branding, repetition, and industry backing. Aries Spears joined the discussion, suggesting Kevin relied on writers more than people realized. Kevin pushed back, explaining those writers were close friends helping punch up ideas, not writing jokes for him. And to be fair, most of his material came straight from his life. Still, full respect from certain comedy circles never fully came. But commercially, none of that slowed him down. From 2014 to 2017, Kevin went on an unreal run with hit after hit, and if you looked closely, a pattern was forming. And it wasn't subtle at all. By the time Ride Along dropped, Kevin's on-screen formula was already locked in.
Stand-up comedy is all self-based. I don't tell jokes. My kids, my life, my divorce, my school situation with my kids, my house situation, it's all personal. It's not something that I can go out and have writers come up with and bring back to me because it's my life.
He played the loud, frantic brother-in-law next to Ice Cube's stone-faced cop. In Get Hard, he became the fast-talking, streetwise guide next to Will Ferrell's clueless millionaire. Then in The Wedding Ringer, he was the hyperactive fixer dragging a nervous groom through chaos. By the time Central Intelligence hit, the role wasn't just familiar, it was expected, and audiences knew exactly what they were getting. Then came Dwayne Johnson. The Rock played the muscle-bound hero, while Kevin filled the role of panicked comic relief, and that same dynamic rolled straight into Jumanji. Welcome to the jungle. And to be clear, it worked really well. The chemistry was undeniable, the laughs landed, and the box office numbers were massive, which made studios even more confident in repeating the formula. But that success came with a cost. Kevin slowly became boxed into one lane, the loud, fast-talking, anxious sidekick. That role sold tickets, so studios kept offering it, and Kevin kept saying yes. Even Kevin joked about it himself, openly talking about masking insecurity with volume, especially jokes about his height. The laughs were real, but so was the repetition, and people started noticing. Those films kept Kevin famous and paid, no doubt about it. But they didn't earn him artistic respect. Kevin didn't want to just be the funny guy anymore. He wanted ownership, legacy, and power. So his focus started shifting away from just acting and stand-up and toward building something much bigger. First came Nike. Kevin partnered with the brand to release his own signature training shoes, the Hustle Heart line, officially becoming the first comedian ever to have a Nike training shoe. That wasn't a comedy flex, that was a business flex, and it signaled that Kevin was thinking far beyond jokes and punchlines. Then came Kevmoji, his custom emoji keyboard, which shot straight to #1 in the App Store almost instantly. After that came tech investments, music startups, and smart headphone ventures. None of this had anything to do with comedy, and that was intentional. Kevin wasn't just building a career anymore. He was building a brand designed to survive without the stage or the screen.
You've had weird fan characters.
Well, what happens if you're 3'2"? I actually bought a picture of Kevin for you guys when he was 16 as well.
So same age.
Same age. There he is, yeah. He's doing this. I wish I was this tall, but I'll never get this tall.
According to Google, how tall is Kevin?
Well, I'll go for what I know. Yes. Legit answer, legit, because I know you're my best friend. 4'2".
That mindset led to Laugh Out Loud Network, a digital comedy platform launched with Lionsgate. Sitcoms, stand-up, sketch shows, all comedy, all under one roof. Kevin said the mission was to give creators more control, but beneath that message was something bigger. Kevin was finally sitting in the seat of power, making decisions instead of waiting for them. He openly talked about wanting to be a mogul, to own projects, fund talent, and control distribution, because once you're your own boss, the rules change completely. Kevin had gone from knocking on doors to holding the keys, and just when it seemed like he couldn't miss, the scandals started surfacing. In July 2017, Kevin was photographed outside a Miami hotel late at night with singer Montia Sabag. The two were seen laughing together in a car, and at the time, Kevin was married to Eniku Parrish, which immediately raised eyebrows. Instead of addressing it directly, Kevin brushed it off with humor, posting a laughing meme, a move that had worked for him before but didn't land the same way this time. The following month, Eniku posted an anniversary photo claiming they had been together for 8 years. And that detail sent the internet into chaos. If true, it suggested overlap with Kevin's marriage to Torrey Hart. Comment sections exploded, speculation ran wild, and the situation escalated fast.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Montia Sabag. I was involved with Kevin Hart a month ago. Since then, my pictures and my name have been released with lies written about me. I am not an extortionist. I'm not a stripper. I'm a recording artist and an actress, and I have not broken any laws. I had nothing to do with these recordings.
Eniku responded publicly, saying Torre knew about her and that the marriage had been over long before she entered the picture. Torre fired back, saying that if Eniku was going to speak, she should speak truthfully. The back and forth went public, the media ran with it, and suddenly Kevin's old cheating jokes didn't feel like jokes anymore. They felt like warnings hiding in plain sight. Then things got worse. In September 2017, Kevin posted a video apologizing to his wife and kids, admitting to poor decisions, and hinting that someone was trying to extort him. The very next day, reports broke that someone was attempting to blackmail Kevin over an explicit video recorded in a Las Vegas hotel. Screenshots surfaced, speculation exploded, and tabloids went into full meltdown mode. Kevin's wife was pregnant at the time. His reputation took a massive hit, and even though Eniku stayed publicly supportive, trust didn't. Almost overnight, Kevin went from America's funny underdog to a celebrity surrounded by nonstop controversy, and that shift changed how people looked at him permanently. Once the dust settled, one thing became obvious. Kevin Hart wasn't just fighting headlines anymore, he was fighting perception. The audience that once saw him as relatable now saw him operating at a completely different level. After arrests were made in the extortion case, public sympathy split sharply. Some people felt bad for him. Others said sympathy doesn't erase responsibility. Before that trust could recover, the Oscar situation flipped everything. Being named host of the Academy Awards wasn't just another gig, it was a stamp of approval from Hollywood's highest table. It meant Kevin wasn't just popular anymore, he was officially establishment. When old tweets resurfaced, Kevin's response became the real controversy. Instead of leading with accountability, he pushed back, framing the criticism as people digging up the past rather than addressing how the words landed. That resistance cost him everything. Stepping down from the Oscars wasn't just losing a hosting job, it symbolized something bigger. For the first time in his career, Kevin couldn't joke his way out of the moment. The backlash didn't fade, it reshaped his image. When Kevin returned with new stand-up, the laughs were still there, but the hunger wasn't. Critics didn't say he wasn't funny. They said he wasn't evolving, and that distinction mattered. Kevin wasn't moving like a comic chasing laughs anymore. He was moving like an executive chasing leverage. Netflix deals, mergers, private equity backing, Kevin stopped being measured as a comedian and started being measured as a corporation. When Heartbeat became a massive media company, the conversation changed completely. This wasn't about jokes anymore. It was about control, access, and influence, and that's why the gatekeeper accusations hit so hard. When comedians like Cat Williams questioned Kevin's rise, it wasn't jealousy, it was suspicion. The speed of his success, the consistency of his opportunities, and the protection he seemed to receive raised real questions, not about talent, but about power. Kevin brushed off the gatekeeper label, framing his choices as business logic, and technically, he wasn't wrong. Businesses don't run on feelings, they run on returns. But when one person controls platforms, funding, and visibility, neutrality disappears. Helping one comedian rise means another stays stuck, and that's the uncomfortable truth. Kevin never fully addressed stories like Tiffany Haddish praising doors he opened, or Monique explaining how fast those doors could close. That contrast didn't make Kevin a villain, it made him central. He wasn't outside the system anymore, he was the system. And once you reach that position, people stop judging intent and start judging impact. The irony is wild. Kevin built his career on honesty, vulnerability, and pain. He turned insecurity into connection and struggle into laughter. That's why people trusted him. But the bigger his empire grew, the safer his image became. The risks disappeared, the raw edges were sanded down, and what replaced them was polish, strategy, and brand protection. Kevin Hart didn't lose his talent. He outgrew the conditions that made it raw. The mogul survives by being careful and controlled, and maybe that's the real ending. Kevin achieved everything comedians dream about: wealth, influence, ownership, and legacy. That part is undeniable. But the version of Kevin people connected with, the one shaped by chaos, hunger, and pressure, couldn't survive inside a billion-dollar structure. Success didn't ruin Kevin Hart. It changed the distance between him and the audience. He didn't fall off, he leveled up. But in leveling up, he may have left behind the very thing that made people believe in him in the first place. If you enjoyed this breakdown, subscribe, share, drop your comments down below, and I'll see you on the next one.